So for everybody out there in listening land, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. We've got an amazing topic and an amazing guest. And before I introduce you to our guest on The Complete Advisor, of course, I want to remind you, like, subscribe, send some comments. I'd love to know what you've got to say. But our topic today is I've titled it Thinking Big. And I've gotten the opportunity to talk to a lot of advisors. And one thing I've noticed through the years is I see that for a lot of advisors, there's something holding them back. Why do you meet advisors that they're stuck? It's like they've hit a glass ceiling or hit a plateau, and they just can't get past it. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about thinking big, believing in yourself, thinking big. And today I am joined by Tim Tremblay. Tim, great to have you here today.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
It is good to, I'm glad we coaxed you out. Usually I don't mention this because I don't like to kind of timestamp things, but it's about 13 degrees outside. And we coaxed you out of Santa Barbara. What was the temperature when you left there?
70.
Oh, I'm sorry, and please send some of that weather our way.
Well, but we're working inside, so it's just fine.
This is true. The run from the parking garage in, though, can get a little salty.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to give a rough rundown of you and your practice, and then I want you to, of course, fill in the blanks. But you started in this industry in 1983.
Yes.
And back then, well, let's go back even further because you have that beautiful ring on your right hand. Tell us a little bit about you and about your practice.
Well, I grew up in Santa Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Santa Barbara City College. That's where I met my wife. She was a cheerleader. I was captain of the football team. First time I asked her out, she said no. I said, "Do you know who I am?" And she goes, "Yes, you're out of here." We've been married 48 years.
That's awesome.
Got 3 kids, 3 grandkids. From Santa Barbara City College, I got a football scholarship to Wake Forest University, North Carolina. Great education, great experience playing football. And then I went to law school down in San Diego at Cal Western. It just took 1 year of law to see that wasn't what I really wanted to do. And so the more I looked at a career path, the more I thought financial services would be a fascinating business. I'd be able to help people, and I'd be able to raise my family. And that certainly has been the case.
Now, that was one of the questions I've got in my notes here. How did you? I know that you were volunteering with a local high school, coaching. How did you not end up in coaching?
I would have liked to have ended up as a coach, but tough to make a living. And as it turns out, I'm coaching advisors, so I'm still coaching. I did coach for 10 years at the high school where I attended. My son attended Bishop Diego. And when he was a freshman, I'm a senior vice president at Prudential Beige, and I get a phone call from Father Charles, the principal. And he says, "I see your son's out for football. We don't have a coach." And I said, "Well, I'm a senior vice president here at Prud Beige, but I'll help out when I can." After the first practice, I was the head coach of the JV football team, and I ended up coaching for 10 years and really enjoyed it.
Now, so since you were with Prudential at the time, broker-dealer, did you have to run the playbook past compliance?
No. Gratefully, no. And but that was a great experience. But after 14 years with wirehouses, I was with Prudential Beige for 10 years, and then Smith Barney. And after 14 years, I decided I'd had enough of the corporate bottom line and decided I'm going to open my own office. So 25 years ago, I opened Tremblay Financial Services in Santa Barbara.
Do you when you look back? I mean, this is looking back because we're talking a different century, which always makes me laugh when I think about it because we're just talking the late 90s here. Any one thing? What was this? Do you remember? Was there a straw that broke the camel's back when you're just like, "Doggone it, I'm doing this. I'm going on my own"?
Yeah, there were several of those straws, so to speak. And finally, I got to the point where I just said, I'm not looking at their mutual fund. I'm not looking at their IPO. I'm not looking at their insurance company. I'm looking at my client. And I want to do what's best for my client, not the shareholders of the corporation. And so it was then that I opened my own office, just my mom, my wife, another guy and his wife. We had a little office with card tables. We were calling people, telling them about this little business we were getting started. And we've since grown now to an office of 17 professionals in Santa Barbara.
Wow.
We have an office in Westlake. We have one in Santa Maria. We supervise offices in San Jose, Sacramento, and Fort Worth, Texas.
Oh, wow.
And my son just opened an office now in Nashville, Tennessee.
Now, I do know that you're very active in the community. And one thing I love, because after this, we are going to head into the studio and do some filming. I read a recent article that you put in the local paper. And one thing that I think is really neat is you delivered, as a boy, you delivered this paper. And then now you're a contributing author, contributing stories in there. And it made me think of the fact that, reputation and reputation protection, and then the things that we choose to spend our time and give our time. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing in the community?
Well, we love Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
My wife and I both grew up there. And the 10 years that I spent coaching were great experiences for me. Really felt that I gave a lot to the youth in a way that you just can't do otherwise. And so it's always been important. And so I've been involved with Bishop Diego with their athletics. I've been the president of the Santa Barbara Athletic Roundtable, which helps youth and through sports throughout our community. I've been on the Santa Barbara City College Athletic Associates, which is a part of the foundation. I'm a member of the foundation board at Westmont College. I'm on the Notre Dame Grade School Finance Committee. So we're really involved with what I think is really important, the youth of Santa Barbara.
So do you, any advice, so for advisors that are watching this and they're looking to get involved in their community, any words of wisdom, any advice that you would give on being involved?
I would say this. As you look at really getting involved in something that's important, find something that you have a passion for. I think it's so much easier to take that extra time and to put in that effort for something that is meaningful to you. There's so many different ways that you can go, so many wonderful charities and organizations and so on. But find one that resonates and then really give to it, and then it comes back. I couldn't tell you the business and what we've been able to do as a result of these charitable events that we've sponsored, the charities that we've worked for in Santa Barbara, how it's come back to bless us. So look for something that you really care about and just put your effort into it, and you'll see it come back fourfold.
Yeah. Now that I just saw today that it looks like we're going to declare the pandemic rules and emergency declaration, whatnot. That's going to come to an end. Have you gone back, or have you? I don't know if I know the answer to this, but are you doing client appreciation events? Is that something that you do out that way?
Yeah, we've come back to doing those things now. As far as we're concerned, the whole COVID concern is behind us. We're doing public events, dinners, and respecting the feelings of some of those that want to wear a mask and so on. I mean,
Sure.
That's up to each individual. But as far as we're concerned, it's back to business as normal. And, we're going to move forward with that in mind.
Any type of client appreciation event you favor?
Well, there have been some that we've really had a lot of fun with. And I'll tell you one that I really like. It's the Foresters baseball. Now, the Foresters is a minor league baseball team in Santa Barbara. They've been around for 60 years. And they have a whole wide range of Major League Baseball players that have gone through that program. And we're one of the sponsors of the Foresters. And so we'll have a couple of games each season where we'll buy the tickets for all of our clients and those that we care about to come to the game. We'll have someone throw out the first pitch, and we'll have my daughter or someone else will sing the national anthem, and it's really become a Tremblay financial night at the Foresters. And it's just been a lot of fun. And the whole community will come in, and not only do we have fun, but the Foresters appreciate the attention that they get from the community and so on. And they do a great job. They've won 11 national championships.
Oh, wow. That's very impressive.
Yes.
It's good to take everyone out to a winner. It's tough to go and watch somebody take a little bit of a beating. So let's talk a little bit about, you and I were talking about this before we turned the mics on. But I am always fascinated. Having worked with my family, I am always fascinated and in awe of offices where family work together and are doing it really well. And you take it up, your practice has taken that up almost to a next level because the whole family has been involved. Talk a little bit about maybe the pros and the cons of working with family.
I think any family is going to have your situations that probably wouldn't work well in that kind of environment, and mine included. There are a couple of family members that I would not want to have work in my office. But the ones that we do have, we all work very well together. And I think it's because we're all on the same page. And it's not where you put one ahead of the other. We're all together. And we look at ways to improve or ideas that we might have. And everyone, regardless if it's the grandkids, my daughter, my son, my wife, what have you, we all really look to do what's best for the company. And I think having that as kind of a premise when they come to work there has really helped in that regard.
Now, and you had mentioned when we talked about starting the practice that your mom worked there.
My mom, she worked with me from the time she retired from the Forest Service. She was 65 years old, first woman to get the position of personnel officer with Los Padres National Forest. Little 5'0" Irish woman telling these big macho men where to go and how to get there. She came and started working with me. She was with me at Prudential Beige, at Smith Barney, Tremblay Financial, and she was just a big part of what we did. And she was always helpful in so many ways. And her motto was it's great to be needed but not responsible. And so she really enjoyed being a part of that, and I think it really kept her going. She worked with me until she was 91.
Golly, that must have been a big loss to the office.
It truly was. It was during COVID, and we couldn't get in to see her. It was a difficult time. But what we do is we keep thinking about the great times that we had with her and how important she was, not just to us, but all our clients and friends. She was just a real big part of what we did. We had this advertisement that we'd put in the paper, and it would have a picture of Marcia, my wife, myself, my mom, Grandma Dottie, my son, and my grandson. We'd say 4 generations at Tremblay Financial Services.
That's wonderful.
Pretty special.
Yeah, that is really cool. That is fascinating, and that is something super special that I don't think very many people can. I don't know of anybody else I've ever met that could say something like that.
Yeah.
Well, so a question now that I want to pivot a little bit to, and you've gone in your career. I mean, you have an incredible practice, and I'll just brag you up a little bit because I know a little bit about you. You have an incredible practice, so you don't have to say anything, but it's you can nod. It's good. It's really good. Yeah. You've done an amazing job coaching and building a staff because that is a team. Through your career, you've gone on, I'm sure, a ton of trips. Carriers take you out. And I'm sure during those trips that you get approached by other advisors that are trying to get a pearl of wisdom, figure out, a little bit about what we're talking about today, thinking big, having a practice, getting over a plateau. Do you, off the top of your head, when you think about all those men and women that have come up to you, any commonalities, anything that you ever saw where you're just like, doggone it, get out of your own way, or any thought that you had when they were asking you those questions?
Well, when you look at making any decision, when you're beginning a business, the biggest word that I think comes to mind is courage. You have to look at it and weigh the pros and cons and know what it is that you're risking when you go out and take that step. And you also have to look at, what is it I can do to alleviate that risk, because there are some wonderful rewards. And part of that is just working hard. It's having integrity. It's having people that believe in what you're doing, that are on the same page that you are. And that goes from the time we opened our office, a little office, to the time that we decided to move to a bigger office, to the time we decided to move to a bigger office, to a time to expand. We had business in the Los Angeles area, and we had an opportunity to open an office in Westlake. It takes courage to make that step. It'd be easy to just stay where you are. You'd be fine. And a lot of businesses are going to just be happy with where they are. But if you look at opportunity and you say, this could make real good sense, how can I achieve that? Take a real good hard look at it and make sure you have all the pieces in place and to have the courage to take that step. Office in Santa Maria. Now we're doing the same thing in Nashville, Tennessee. My son is opening an office there. He's got the courage now to make that big move. And I have the courage to step up there with him to ensure that he's going to do the right thing and be there with him on that journey. And we'll see where that takes us. But you achieve each of these goals, and you can sit on your laurels and say, okay, we're fine, we'll just stay where we are. Or you can say, is there another step I can take that will put us in an even better place? And that's what I'm looking at now. I'm looking at my grandkids. What kind of legacy can I leave for them, for the business, for them to take on, and maybe for their grandkids?
I get the opportunity to talk to advisors all the time, and I've talked to some that are their view is next Wednesday. They're looking that short, and here you are. I mean, if this was the span of time, we're looking out into generational practice. Any thought on that? As far I'm catching, this is catching you off guard here a little bit, but any thought on it? Any plans that you're laying out in particular that you can think of that as you're thinking really, really long term?
Well, when I think of that, okay, that's the future. We're looking at great grandkids. And they're not here yet. So you're thinking about something that hasn't happened, but you're pretty confident will happen. And then you look at what you've been able to do right now. And I look at what my grandkids are telling me, how they're really happy to be a part of this whole thing that we've created. My youngest grandson came in. He's a sophomore at Santa Barbara City College. And he looked around at the office and came to work in as an intern. And he said, Papa, one of these days I'm going to run this joint.
There you go.
I said, great, Noah. Now just get your supervisor's license so your dad will have to come to you for supervision. He goes, let's do this.
Let's do it.
So, I think if you create that for your family and for those that you care about, other advisors in our office have been with us for 17 years. Our operations manager, he's been here since day one. That's part of the family. And so you're looking at a legacy not for you but for the entire team in the future. And that's exciting. And that really gives you that motivation to continue to build and take that next step.
I think I think the one thing that is so beautiful is practice like yours, where it's just not, it's like you just said, everybody's family basically, and that what you're creating is this. It's almost its own ecosystem, almost its own. It has its own GDP, and it has its own its own growth and benefits and all these things. So there are generations of kids that are going to go to college because their mom or their dad worked at your financial services outfit. It's such a beautiful thing.
Well, and let me tell you this story because I think this really tells how I was able to get this thing going. And oftentimes when I'm asked to be a keynote speaker at some of these conferences and conventions that I've been to, I'll talk about the licenses and education and so on and the business, but that kind of goes in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
But this story that I'm going to tell you now really kind of tells you about the meat and potatoes of Tremblay Financial Services. So when I made a decision to go into financial services, I moved to Santa Barbara with my wife, had a baby, and I had to take care of him as I'm going through this interview process. And it was pretty extensive, background check, psychologicals, and I had to take care of my family. So I got a job at Joe's Cafe as a waiter, and that was fine. Got good tips and food and what have you, but I wanted to make some more money while I was in this process, and I was a good mechanic. My dad had a VW mechanic repair office, or a facility, a garage in Santa Barbara. And so a friend of mine across the street from Joe's had a body shop, and he said, Tim, you can use one of my bays if you want to work on cars. So I'd put ads in the paper to do valve jobs, tune-ups, and so on for Volkswagens. So I was doing both mechanic and waiter as I was interviewing to be a financial advisor. Well, this one day, a lady answered my ad. Her name was Sally, and she came into the body shop, and her car wasn't running well. And I said, let me do a compression test. And I did, and sure enough, a burned valve. I said, you're going to need to bring it in at 8 in the morning. I'll have it ready for you at 5. $300. And she said, okay. Do you have to be here on time? So the next day, right at 8, she showed up. I'm in my blue mechanic's outfit. Sign the work order. I say, Sally, I'll see you at 5. She leaves. I pull the engine out, pull the accessories off, pull the heads off. Sure enough, burn valves. Send them to the machine shop. Now I have to do lunch at Joe's Cafe. So I have to clean the grease off, take off my blue mechanic's outfit, put on my white shirt, bow tie dinner jacket, and run across the street to Joe's. I'm setting up my station, and who walks in? Sally. She walks in and sees me and goes, there's a guy that looks just like you working on my car. I said, well, that's me. How in the heck are you going to have my car ready? I said, don't worry. Your car will be ready at 5. Now, we have great beef dips here at Joe's Cafe. She said, okay, I'll have a beef dip and a cup of coffee. So I serve her lunch. The rush hour is over. She leaves me a nice tip. And she goes, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I'll see you at 5. I run across the street, take off my white shirt, bow tie dinner jacket, put on my blue mechanic's outfit. By the time I do that, the heads have arrived from the machine shop. I put the heads on, torque them down, put on the accessories, install the engine. 5 o'clock, Sally shows up. I'm setting the timing. It's purring like a kitten. She goes, my husband's not going to believe it. I said, be sure to come back for your 3,000-mile valve adjustment. Now, I'll see you at Joe's for dinner. And she goes, I think so. So she leaves. I clean all the grease off, put on my white shirt, bow tie dinner jacket, run across the street. I'm sitting on my station. Sally walks in with her husband. That's him. That's the guy. I said, how's that car running? He said, it's purring like a kitten. I said, great, because now we have great steaks here at Joe's Cafe. So the guy had a steak dinner. We kidded around. He gave me a $100 tip in 1983.
Wow.
I have my tips for lunch and dinner, my $300 check for the valve job. I come home to my wife and say, I'm not going into financial services. Look what I did. And she said, no, honey, you're going into financial services. So I tell that story because that still is the work ethic that we have at Tremblay Financial. And when we tell you we're going to get something done, we get it done, regardless of what it takes. You can count on it.
I like it. You know what? I can't think. I've got like a dozen more questions, but I can't think of a better spot to stop right there. And so, Tim, one thing I want to ask you next time you're out this way, I would love to have you back on the podcast because you have so much wisdom to share.
I would love to.
Yeah, we would love to have you. That was a great story, and I bet Sally told that story for years.
She did, and I tell the story, and I tell people with every 100-share order, tune-up in the parking lot.
That is fantastic. Tim, thanks for being on the show. God, what a spot to wrap. It has been a pleasure. For those of you out there, if you're watching, you can see us. Of course, you can see us on wherever you get your favorite podcast. Although Apple and Spotify and YouTube, you can watch. Otherwise, iTunes, Pandora, everybody else, you can listen to us. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. Also, shoot me some comments. I'd love to hear what you got to say. So with that, thank you. We'll see you next episode. Tim, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This podcast is for financial professional use only and not for use with the general public. The information provided is the exclusive property of Creative One and is protected by copyright and other intellectual property laws of the United States. This material has been prepared for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to provide, and should not be relied upon for, accounting, legal, tax or investment advice. Creative One is not responsible for the results of programs discussed on this podcast or any liability stemming from the use of it. Although we may promote or recommend the services offered by this company, agents are ultimately responsible for the use of any materials or services and agree to comply with the compliance requirements of their broker-dealer and registered investment advisor, if applicable, and the insurance carriers they represent. Copyright 2022, Creative One Marketing Corporation.